So, as any good marketing person would tell you, the title is the key to attracting audience. So, 50 Shades of Marketing. The reason I chose this title was to try and bask in the $1 billion franchise of 50 Shades of Grey. But this is no way connected to the movie, nor is there going to be any kind of, what would you call it, S&M kind of activities today. The only thing we'll probably tie down is bad marketing practices and rumors. So, nothing to do with 50 Shades of Marketing. So, a quick agenda for today. What I would love to, usually I do this as an interactive thing, but I'll probably walk through this presentation and I'll be available at the back if you have more questions. Happy to talk about it. And I'm told this would be preserved for posterity. So anytime you feel like listening to my soothing voice, this is a great time to go there and put yourself to sleep, right? So basically I would like to talk about what is marketing, and the reason why you would want to do that is because people think about marketing in multiple ways. So let's quickly talk about what is marketing. Hence, we're going to talk about Greek and Latin, right? And we want to also try and figure out why marketing is getting harder for small businesses, especially for small businesses. And we'll go through what are the big differences that we see today because of technology, because of the ecosystems that we live in, how small and medium businesses marketing is beginning to change as opposed to traditional marketing. And then we'll go through the 50 shades of marketing. The caveat here is I do have 50 shades, but we may not have time to discuss everything. I'll focus on one or two key points and talk about examples and how it's relevant to small businesses. And then we'll have some key takeaways at the end of the thing. So the reason why dwarfs like me can see farther on the marketing horizon is because we stand on the shoulder of some marketing giants. Some of them are local marketing practitioners. Some of them are very famous names. I've been inspired by them, and some of these marketing 50 Shades you'll see is inspired by those guys. So thank you to them. And if I've not included some of the other folks, I'm sorry, I forgot. So before we start, let's get a definition of marketing, right? So there are various definitions, but the one at Urban Dictionary, I love it the best, right? We just take no responsibility for anything, but take the credit for everything else, right? But the way to think about this, right, is if you have a product or a service and there is a customer, right, if you're able to provide a certain value, right, and you're able to get some kind of money or transactions or some form of value back to you, and any practices that enable you to do this, that's marketing, right? So that's the simplest way to think about it, right? And then we'll look at what are the various ways of how you can provide value and how are the many ways to appropriate the value from the customer. So, how many of you here owned a VCR? Quick show of hands. Okay. And a Rolodex on the table? Heck, I still have a Rolodex, right? But what you notice now is you don't see any of those things, right? Everything gets into it's squeezed into a simple smartphone, right? So, the way to think about this, so this fact is known as dematerialization, right? And what this basically means is you're able to take multiple functions, multiple things, and pull it all into a single focal point, right? Einstein came about with this grand theory of unification. This is what is happening now over a period of time, right? And the way to think about dematerialization, how it impacts to us is everything is getting smaller and getting into one single point, right? So think about transportation, right? There is a lot of dematerialization happening over there. Pick any single category, any single market vertical, dematerialization is happening. And because dematerialization is happening, there is a significant change in terms of how marketing is becoming different, right? So everybody and their grandmother, literally, are on the internet, right? And everybody around the world are also on the internet. So what's happening then is there is a democratization of technology, right? And because there is this democratization of technology, everybody who has a great idea is able to put it out there. So in 2016, the Global Innovation Index put out the top 5 countries. So guess where US was? Number 4, right? The countries that's ahead of us is Sweden, Switzerland, and UK. And the one following right us is Finland, right? So you are getting ideas wherever they are from multiple places. Innovation is happening every day, 24/7. And above and beyond that, the scaling has dramatically improved. The one stat that always I find it funny is it took the World Wide Web 7 years or 84 months to get to 100 million users, right? Guess how long it took Candy Crush to get to 100 million? 15 months. 15 months. So what's happening is there is a skeletal framework that's kept for us, right? And people are leveraging that, and there is an acceleration of innovation, and there is a great acceleration of all kinds of great ideas, and your competitor is not your next door neighbor, or somebody who lives in the city, or somebody who lives even in your country, right? It's a competitor coming from far, far away. And the other thing that we are also noticing is because you are digitizing a whole bunch of activities, and you are dematerializing, right? You're putting everything into a smartphone or something similar to that. There is a tremendous reduction in cost, right? So digitization leads to dematerialization, leads to zero marginal cost. And this zero marginal cost is going to impact everything that small businesses do, right? Because if you need to do something, you need to get into a car, go to a store, buy the raw materials and spend some time on it. But for a lot of these digitized products and the services, the cost to serve another customer, the cost to produce yet another widget is getting closer and closer to zero. So you need to find a way to think about that so that your business model makes sense and you can compete effectively. So there is digital disruption going on. No matter what kind of company you are, you will eventually become a data company. And because you'll become a data company, disruption is going on and you just need to be cognizant and aware of it. Don't panic, but be aware of it. So having said that, let's take a quick look at how traditional marketing differs from, I guess, small business marketing, right? So in typical traditional marketing, what you would see is, you will see marketing and advertisers, only those guys trying to push the story about their particular company or product. But if you are a small business, everybody does it. You do it, your spouse does it, your dog does it. You'll even spray paint your dog so that they can go and talk about your product, right? The other big thing that people always tend to forget, right, is one of the key advantages of small business is the ability to personalize, and that differentiates your product or service from anybody else who can come in. If you can look at your customers, and if you can figure out who your customers are and how you can segment them, and then if you can personalize your services or products to those guys, you'll have the most loyal customer base. This is one of your key differentiators, and that's how you can try and win or succeed against competition and try to grow. And the other key thing that separates small businesses from traditional marketing is authenticity, right? So there is a famous saying that if you can fake authenticity, you got it made. But try it. Faking authenticity is not easy. It's a lot of hard work. And you people would know a lot more than I would because you are in the trenches every day, right? You talk to your customer. You know the person. You know their parents. You know what kind of cat or dog they have, right? So when that relationship is authentic and how you serve them with your product and service is authentic, that is yet another differentiator that other companies cannot even compete. So you're talking about, man, this guy's just talking about all this stuff. Where are the 50 shades of marketing? It's coming, right? So what I've tried to do is I've put those 50 shades into 5 buckets, splitting them into customer, strategy, tactical, product, and others. So the first 10, right? And again, this is going to be on the web. Don't try to read the whole thing. There's a lot of good stuff. But the one I like to focus on is the one about how your customers may have as much or more information on you as you do on them, right? So remember, how many of you have review pages, right? Or your companies are getting reviewed somewhere, right? And every day I bet, and when I used to be in a couple of startups and smaller companies, we would go and check, hey, is there any review today? And if any review shows up, we have to figure out, hey, is this good? Is this bad? How do you, right? So while companies are going around collecting as much data as possible, I mean, you pay a lot of money to try and understand, hey, who's shopping on what? At the same time, the customers are also shopping for you. As a matter of fact, there are intermediaries and companies that are selling your data to the customers. So it's kind of weird, but the idea here is just know that your online presence and your online reputation sometimes is more important than your offline, right? Because it's all about the scale and scope and how quickly you can reach people. So here's a small video I wanted to show you, and then we can talk about it a little bit. Oh, I guess it didn't play. Is there any way we can get to play the video? Minor glitch. No? Okay. All right. That's fine. So, so when you guys do get a chance, you should try and Google flash mob and Copenhagen. It's a wonderful video about how regular passengers are waiting for the train to come, and it says your classic music is arriving. And when they get in, there is a flash mob that pulls out classical instruments and plays Peter Ginn's famous Springtime melody on the train. It's just great. And they just talk about what kind of reactions people have, and it's a short 2.5-minute video, but it's worth your time. But the idea here is this, right? Your customers, right? One of the reasons why your service or product is memorable is you have found a way to delight your customer in some way. And that's great. You should do that every day. But if you can find a way to delight your customer in an unexpected way, that's when that customer becomes your evangelist and your ambassador, right? And so as long as you can find a way to go talk to them about and find a way to delight that particular customer or a set of customers, I think you have got a wonderful way to move forward with the business. So the next bucket was about strategy, right? So there is this famous Harvard professor, Peter Drucker, right? And he always talks about how strategy is a commodity, but execution is an art. I tend to differ from him, right? So the way I think about strategy is marketing strategy is like poetry, right? But execution is like prose, right? So what I mean by that is when you're looking at strategy and I'm thinking about it, you're always looking at the bigger picture and trying to fit through and talk about what should the business do? What are the 2 or 3 goals that we need to achieve? How do we need to achieve that? So we just lay out the larger 50,000-foot level view. One of the things that I really liked about the strategy and some of the companies which have a very sustaining business is the ability to create more value than you can capture, right? Which means when you are as a business, are you adding more to the society than you're taking back? And this sounds kind of very naive, like, man, come on, I run a business, I need to make money. Actually, this is a great marketing strategy. And the reason why this is such a great marketing strategy is because when you contribute more to the society, you are kickstarting an ecosystem that probably never existed before, or that gets absorbed into another ecosystem that's looking at adding value to the society or to your ecosystem. And therefore, you are now reaching out to customers that you never did before. So if you look at any large company, the first thing they'll say is, man, we are trying to do something in the community. We are trying to do a bunch of blah, 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 right? There's a reason why they do that. Because when the community feels that you are contributing more than you're asking from them, there is a loyalty base, there's a very loyal base that builds for that. So it's an excellent way to think about how do you grow your loyal customer base. This is how you do it. So a great example for a good strategy is a company called iCracked. The founder, AJ, is also from Texas. And he used to be in his dorm. He broke his phone, and he tried to fix it, and it's just a very painful process to go through this, right? So there's a nice story about how he actually did it. So he decided to go start a iPhone repair company. But here is the cool thing that he did, right? He went and started this in 2010. It's now about 25 million or more in revenue. And then it's in around the world, right? In about 600 cities. The big breakthrough that came to him was iCracked is not an iPhone repair company. They don't repair iPhones. They find technicians, or what they call as iTechs, train them, and then when a phone breaks and somebody calls the iTech takes 100% of the money. So that's not how they make the money. They make the money by selling the iPhone parts to the iTechs. So that's their business model. And that gives them a unique way to do it because they now suddenly just became a distribution channel rather than the person who actually does the work. So that was the magic inflection point for them to go from a small business to a massive $25 million and still growing, right? It's on every list of hottest company, Forbes, 100 fastest growing companies. And now they just recently opened 2 offices in Japan, right? So it's a very interesting model. So the key takeaway from this is, look, everybody has a way to has a great, brilliant idea, right? But you got to have a way to get your business model out there and prove the business model, and you got to do it fast. Because now there are 3 other companies trying to do the same thing, but AJ has kind of sort of the monopolistic rights to get all the iPhone parts. So it's kind of interesting. So if strategy was poetry, here is the prose, right? But with prose, sometimes it feels like you're reading War and Peace, right? With 1,200 pages. But sometimes it gets very interesting, right? So while there are many things to think about, the one thing which you guys will know much better than I would is to take a good plan instead of the perfect plan next week. So the old saying goes, right? Bird in hand is better than 2 in a bush. A good plan today is better than a perfect plan next week. So the reason is this, right? Because anytime you have a plan, you make a bunch of assumptions. And from my experience, I know that every time I put in a plan, 50% of those assumptions are wrong, right? So you need to make sure, take a good plan, make sure it's good enough. Run with it, because you'll quickly find as you're executing, half of the assumptions are wrong, and then you'll discover new things so that at least you're making the progress rather than staying stuck in planning and planning and planning, right? So on the tactical side, one of the things that I did want to talk about is from a marketing perspective, how do we know that we are efficient, right? How do you know the marketing work that you're doing is actually bearing fruit and you're doing the right things? So the key thing is to try and measure something, right? So I can take a simple software as a service as an example, but where CAC, the cost, the customer acquisition cost, right? It's a common terminology, which means, how much does it cost to get a customer, right? So you measure that, and then you try to understand what is the lifetime value of a customer. Hey, Jack walks into my store. Has he been coming for 2 years, or has he been coming for 2 months, right? And when he comes, how much does he buy every time he makes a purchase? So you're looking at the lifetime value of a customer. So typically, the way you want to do it is the cost of acquiring a customer should be lower than the lifetime value, right? If Jack is going to spend $1,000 a year, right, and that's all he's going to do, but it took you $1,500 to acquire that customer, not a good way to do the business, right? So typically what happens in companies, you're moving very fast, you're not looking at stuff, you may end up, spending a lot more to acquire the customer than the lifetime value of the customer. And remember, your customer doesn't live in a bubble, right? Your customer has a choice to go shop multiple places. So a lot of times people get this lifetime value very wrong. There are just way too many variables around it. And you will see a lot of books and articles written about, CAC and LTV, and you got to look at this stuff. Like, yes, you do, but a lot of times the assumptions don't hold very well, especially for small businesses, right? So the way to get around this kind of measurements is a better way to measure the stuff. There is a great blog by a guy called Dave Nash, and there's a link on his name in the as a credit. So just go look up his blog. It's fantastic. I mean, it just gives you a very nice worksheet to go talk about this stuff. But the way to think about this is you look at your monthly recurring revenues per customer, right? I'm throwing a lot of acronyms. I hate TLAs, but it's easier to show it on a slide, right? But basically, you take your monthly recurring revenues, how much money is he going to spend every month? Look at your customer acquisition cost. That tells you how many months value that customer can provide. So when you can find out how many months it takes to break even and beyond that, that's an excellent way to think about, am I spending enough marketing effort and money, or should I spend more, right? So this is a very simple but easy calculation, and there is a very nice worksheet that you can look up. So the key takeaway from this is, measure, because if you can't measure, you won't be able to do anything else with it. Once you measure, do the analysis. The CAC and LTV measurements are a little bit weak. So you may want to look at it. Once you got it figured out, then try to repeat it, right? And now we get back to the product, right? One of the key things that with the product that you can see is every product has a secret sauce, right? So this is the one thing I realized. So make sure your product or a service has a secret sauce. Keep it secret. Let other people know that it is a secret, because that's what makes a product a lot more compelling, right? So it protects you. You can also gain a lot of value from it. But the other thing which I also really love is, especially if you're on the software side and you're looking at technology, people love to talk about the minimum viable product, the MVP, right? It's great. It works in some places, but I personally think you should not start with an MVP, but with a minimum awesome product, right? And there is a difference, right? Because when you do an MVP, you're always thinking about what are the few functional things that I can do and how I can move, right? And how does it work? So you're just looking at how it works. What you really need to do is, if I build this product, how will the customer feel? What will make the customer be so excited? Where is the wow factor, right? So with this in mind, I've got, oh, we just moved out. Yeah, sorry, the animation went out. So what I was going to show you was, of these 4 guys, which of the guys actually invented the telephone? It is the last guy, Amos Dolbear. And Amos Dolbear didn't invent the telephone like 6 months ahead of Alexander Bell, not 1 year ahead of them, but 15 years, 1-5, right? Nobody knows about it, right? So he didn't go through the patent. He just kept it. He was just experimenting. He had a good plan, but he wanted to get a perfect plan, right? So the thing about this stuff is you get something going, get to the market fast, right? So it's very important to do that. And then, of course, there's a whole bunch of other great marketing ideas and suggestions that I've received from a lot of folks. The one I really, two which I really like is engaging the media is like porcupines making love. You got to do it very slowly and very carefully. Because you say something, it just goes viral very, very, very quickly, right? But the other thing I did want to focus on is what you thought was a bad idea yesterday can actually be a very, very good idea tomorrow. So don't discard bad ideas just because you failed. It may be because of an influx of technology, resources, or just the right kind of people who are not together to make it happen. So don't throw away your bad ideas. Just keep it in a safe bucket somewhere. So having said all those things, some of the quick key takeaways were, if you're in marketing or you want to do marketing, it's not a calling. It's not something that you wake up and say, oh, today I want to be a marketing guy. No. You need to feel it, you need to live it, and you need to really like it, right? It is a marathon. Any marketing activity is a marathon. There is no such thing as some guy coming and saying, oh, I'll double your sales in 3 months. Nope. They're marketing themselves and trying to take your money, right? It's a slow and steady process. You need to work through it. You will fail at some point, and that's okay, but it's a marathon, right? And the other key thing that I took away from talking to some of the freaks and with my experience is, usually as small businesses, you have an intuition, right? You're like, man, that might be a good idea. That's a good market. That's a good product. Take the intuition. Test it out. Get some data. Once you get the data, what that data will tell you is it'll train you, whether it's good or bad, yes or no. And that actually feeds into your intuition and just makes you a better small business person, right? So I love that positive way to think about it. And the last thing I did want to leave you with is, whatever you do, be kind, be nice. It's great for business, but it's also, you will also be a much better human being for that. Thank you.